All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday afternoon. It is 4:30, just past 4:30 here outside of Chicago, which means it is time for office hours. I am flying solo today because Johan is also flying at the moment, doing a little bit of traveling this evening. So hopefully I can hold down the fort here and help answer some questions and share some news and information with you all today. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. One of the big things on my mind this week rather, is the Microsoft Technical Takeoff has been going on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. I haven't been able to follow up with everything yet. It's been a very busy week, as I'm sure it has been for many of you. But let's start off with real quick what we've been able to see so far, and then I thought I'd share at least one of a favorite session from at least the first 2 days. So we've got the technical takeoff page here. This kind of has all of the sessions and the schedule and everything for the entire week. Today was the third day of the event. There's been some great stuff so far. You can see we've got about 10 sessions per day with different speakers and different topics. I haven't been able to catch up on anything yet from today's session, but looks like some great stuff. And we still have quite a few more sessions going on tomorrow. These are all recorded. They're all available on YouTube as they come up here. So definitely recommend you go and check some of these out. Anything that looks interesting to you. Monday, some things that stuck out to me. There was a session about Hot Patch. A little bit of AI, of course, across all of these sessions. Some Windows 365 sessions. But one of my favorites from Monday, and I want to go back and watch it again, was the session called Intune Fastlane. Let's talk about all things latency. And this session talked about sort of the ins and outs of when a change occurs on an endpoint, what types of changes there are. There's some really useful information here, I thought. And before I go to the next one that stuck out to me from Tuesday, on the topic of policy and changes on the endpoints, there were actually two blog posts that Johan and I came across from Juiced here around policy. This one was from last week, talking about moving on to the new declared configuration policies and how this is going to improve sort of when and how policies are applied. So I wanted to, while we were still on the topic of policy, mention this one, as well as another blog post he did earlier in the month, again around OMA-DM and how policies are enforced. So wanted to just take a pause from Technical Takeoff for a moment to also cover these two blog posts that I wanted to share today, all around policy. There's a lot of information when it comes to policy. For a long time, a lot of what we've heard is, policy is just going to be updated every 8 hours. But if you've worked with Intune for a little while, you know that there is some nuance to that. We're getting policies based on scheduled tasks. We're getting policies when certain assignments are created. So I really encourage you to go through these articles as well as that technical takeoff session from Monday. That session was about 18 minutes long, and I learned quite a bit from it. And then one of my favorites from Tuesday was from Steve Hosking over at Microsoft. Great. Stephen is a great dude. He's the other half of the Intune training team along with Adam Gross. I've had the let me turn that down. I've had the opportunity to speak with Stephen a number of times at MMS over the years, and Stephen did a 45-minute presentation around Windows 11 kiosks. We get questions about Windows 11 kiosk from time to time. I know there's been several improvements over the last year, and that's kind of the description here on Stephen's video. So if you've got kiosks that you're working with in your environment, absolutely recommend checking this session out as well. As I mentioned, haven't gotten to catch up on all sessions, let alone today's. So expect that you'll hear a little bit more about these sessions from Johan and I next week. But at this point, these are two that stuck out to me for sure. Absolutely fantastic content over here. Really love on these technical takeoff events as well that they feel like bite-sized, very specific topics, which easy to consume in my opinion. So that's what we've got going on a technical takeoff this week. We'll talk again more about it next week as well as we get through some of these other sessions. I did also come across this announcement just this afternoon. Dates were announced for the Windows Server Summit coming up here April 29th and 30th. So late next month. We'll be looking at those. Similar sort of setup as the technical takeoff, if I remember correctly. You can see it's about the same time, just the first half of the day here. And they'll have some recorded sessions as well as some Q&A underneath those sessions here. Actually, let me go back to the technical takeoff page. So I think if we go here, this is where you'll see a lot of the Q&A pop up. I showed the direct YouTube links, but in the technical takeoff event, if you click on one of the sessions, you'll get not only the YouTube link here once the session has ended, but also Q&A down here below the actual technical takeoff link in the tech community. So I expect that the Windows Server Summit is going to be similar. If you're managing servers, definitely recommend marking your calendars for that one as well. So these were kind of the top of mind things for this week. I have a couple of blog posts that I have on my reading list as well. A little bit older one, but something that popped up. I saw Rudy reshare it from the Patch My PC blog earlier today, I think. If you're using local administrator protection on Windows 11, nice blog post here. If you're using it on non-English US devices, we'll get a common error that can come across with that solution. But Microsoft has fixed it as of late. So just wanted to call out that repost that I saw from Rudy. Great blog post if this is something that you're dealing with. Then also came across an article from Damien. Many of us are using, your standard Dell or managing your standard Dell, Lenovo, HP devices. But of course, we also have some of the new Asus NUC devices out there that we have to deal with. And Damien has a nice post here on how we can manage the BIOS settings of those NUC devices with PowerShell. So if this is something that you're working with in your organization, nice solution here from Damien on how you can manage those things. So that's what I had mostly for this week. And I see quite a few hellos in the chat. Thank you. Hello, everybody. And I see Johan has downloaded several of the technical takeoff sessions to watch on his flight. So thanks for popping in, Johan. Hopefully that's definitely going to keep you awake on the flight. You're in for a treat. There's some good stuff out there, as I mentioned several times. So that's kind of the news. That's what's been going on with me this week and what I've been trying to pay attention to. We did have a question. I think I'm going to need to dive into it a little bit more, but we did have a question come in over email around co-management. Essentially, we've got some devices. Jennifer emailed us about this. Got some devices that are going through the co-management process seemingly successfully, but both Intune and ConfigMgr are saying that they are not co-managed. Now, what I mean by that, if I hopefully I understood the problem correctly, is that we have I have a device here that is co-managed, and you can actually see on the device that co-management is in fact enabled. Um, and this device, ADM Labs-TST02, if we go over to Intune and Windows, we can see that this device is showing up as co-managed here, and that the device is showing up in ConfigMgr also as co-managed right here. And I think the issue is that it's showing up on the server or service side that they are not co-managed. So the first place that I think I would start as I'm starting to think through that problem is on the client side, do ensure that co-management is showing up here as enabled. And then, of course, the common co-management log that you're going to look for on the client side is here in the CCM logs, your standard logs directory. And then we want to look at the co-management handler log. This is going to have sort of some proof that it's trying to go through the co-management process. So I've had this device spun up for a while. If I scroll all the way back to the beginning of this log, you'll see basically there are some messages that show that the device isn't enrolled, the device isn't Azure AD or Entra joined yet at this point. So these are some of the messages that I would look for. And you actually see basically the device trying to go through that process and reporting status. Even here, this was an interesting one that I noticed. Co-management is disabled but expected to be enabled. But eventually, on this device, everything went through, and we can see that workloads were set. We can see that the device is, in fact, co-managed. So this is one place that I would check first on the client side. You can see some of the latest logs here from yesterday. The device is provisioned. Again, workloads are set. Things look good on this device. So I don't have a device that's in that exact broken state that we received the email about. But this would be one of the places that I would start. But I think I'll probably have some more follow-up questions on seeing this as not co-managed in both of these places. Typically, the only time that I've seen that is simply a waiting game, but that did not sound like the case here. So if anybody else has seen that, though, and come across a solution for that or any other things that I'm missing or not thinking of, please feel free to share it in the chat. That was just my one place that I would start first, ensuring that that log looked okay. Might also add in there, just some basic checks. Make sure Intune licensing is assigned. Make sure the user account is actually synced. Those sorts of things. So that was. I did want to touch on that real quick before we moved forward because we got an email about that first, and we might have to touch up on it some more next week as well. I see Bruce is joining in here as well. Some suggestions from the Technical Takeoff, the kiosk one that I mentioned from Steven, and the MCC one from a couple of hours ago from this morning. I'll have to put those on my list. I think I saw some comments from you too, Bruce, on the hot patching session and how to actually set up some of the configuration in the settings catalog. So I should mark that on my list to share as well. Thanks for sharing that with the community. So So go ahead and start. Looks like we do have a couple of questions here. Let's see. For updating Windows 11 through Windows Hello or Windows Update for Business feature updates, created a Win32 app to copy drivers to location of the proactive remediation script. Works well. What log do I validate the drivers have been applied? Setupact.log. This is one of those ones that I would normally, Johan probably knows off the top of his head. So basically applying those drivers with the remediation script looks good. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Johan. Yes, setupact.log will show the successful injection of drivers. Thank you, sir. See, I'm not totally flying solo today. That's awesome. So, Mr. Green, I hope that answers your question there. I'm going to find two. There we go. Just found Bruce's tweet from earlier this week. There we go. So in one of the sessions on Hot Patch, basically how can we enable the prereqs? How can we enable the prereqs for Hot Patch? Thanks, Bruce, for tweeting this out. How can we enable them through Settings Catalog, rather? Sorry. All right. So back to the question on drivers as well. Johan just shared a link with me. Basically, how to deploy drivers with the setupconfig.ini file. So, Mr. Green, I'll share this link with you as well. Or I'll share this link for this evening. This is going to give some tips on how to deal with drivers during that feature update process. Very detailed blog post here on how to deal with that setupconfig.ini. Here's the setupact log. Some good stuff in here. And here's exactly what that would look like in that log. All right. Jamie's asking, do you think Microsoft will bring M365 updates for ARM64? I cannot see them in WSUS, so cannot import into SCCM. Let's see. It's a great question, Jamie. I do not know. Still love the questions on ARM64, by the way, even though we may not always have the answers for them. That's really indicative, I think, that folks are trying to use it. They're trying to see how they can bring that into the enterprise, how they can use it in their organization. And as we've talked about on here, there's obviously a lot of benefits to that. That said, still have not managed it too much at this point. Most of what I'm dealing with are specifically Windows 64-bit. But we'll take a note of that one. And see if I can get any other information on that. Great question. All right. What else? Anything else going on this week? Any questions or anything anybody would just like to share? Any favorites from Technical Takeoff if you have been keeping up with it this week? Be happy to hear feedback from others to see if there's anything that they've really liked out of these sessions. Awesome. Just saw a comment here from Matthew over on YouTube. Was in a masterclass with Johan last week. Really enjoyed it. Got his test lab set up and working through the labs with the hydration kit for Server 2022. Let's see. Oh, so we've got a note in the Server 2022 hydration kit. Yeah, basically in the 2022 hydration kit, we have a note that shows to use a specific build number, the 22H2 version of ADK for Windows 11, not the newer versions. I have not tested it in the 2022 hydration kit yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I think you're safe to use the latest ADK from December 2024, just a few months ago. I have been testing the 2025 hydration kit a lot over the last week. Have not released it publicly yet, but have been testing it a lot and using the latest ADK there. So Matthew, I would say go ahead and try the new ADK. All right, good. So Johan says you can use the 24H2 ADK, but 22H2 is better. So I won't adjust that note maybe I'll adjust that note a little bit in the 2022 README. They have better luck with the 22H2 ADK, but 24H2 is usable. Johan, if you're still with us, any details on why you still prefer the 22H2 ADK? And so, just so we have, I will pull this up here. Fewer bugs, good enough. So let's see, I'm going to pull up on GitHub. And if we search for 22H2, here is the note that we're referring to here. So I want to adjust my notes for the 2025 hydration kit as well. Okay, 24H2 has bugs with the dism commandlets. So keep that in mind. May work for you, Matthew. But either way, just making a note. All right. See a question coming in here from Amir. Just reading it real quick. In one of our Intune tenants, when assigning Windows platform scripts to groups. So in one of our Intune tenants, when assigning Windows platform scripts to groups, we only see the add group option. There's no all users, all devices, or any exclusion group option. Microsoft Support explained that this is because the tenant predates the rollout of the exclusion feature. They can enable it for us, but it will be disruptive since we'll lose all existing scripts and assignments in the process. This means it'll be on us to manually restore everything, including reassigning hundreds of production scripts, which isn't an easy task, especially when it comes to tracking down the right source scripts. Does anyone have any tips on a systematic way to back up all scripts and their current assignments so we can restore them smoothly after Microsoft flips the switch? So as far as backing up scripts, get out of here, zoom it. As far as backing up scripts, let's see, I think we can go here. The Intune management tool from Michael Carlson is a great start. So let me see what directory I need to be in here. Intune management. I know I've got a more recent version of this somewhere. Ah, there we go. So while that loads, the Intune management tool here from Michael Carlson again, fantastic tool, which is why we talk about it so often. Great way to back up and restore configurations and things like that through Intune. So if we do launch this tool and log in, like so, we've got some scripts here that we can look at, and basically these scripts we can, I know we can view them here, not the JSON. Let's see, what does this look like if we document them? So this is one way, but that's probably not going to be the easiest way because this is just giving us HTML. But documenting this is at least going to give us the information of the script and the assignments. Let's see, is this the one that I want? Yeah, here we go. So let's go to demo, and I'll save this script. So basically, using this tool, selected one of these scripts here, clicked view, and then download. This is going to allow me to actually download the script itself here. So if we just go ahead and open this up, there's my script. So this is one way to get the scripts themselves. There is, I believe there is a commandlet in the Microsoft Graph SDK. PowerShell Graph SDK. Let's see here. Nope, that's not it. Not showing me all my commandlets here. Because Amir, I think if you've got hundreds of scripts, you're definitely going to want to script this if possible, I suspect. All right, let's do... Nope. I'm pretty sure we've got a script on this somewhere. See if I can find it real quick. Actually, I got another place that we can look as well. Let's take a look here. Let's see. Device and app management. So I'm just trying to find the Microsoft Graph endpoint for scripts. See, it's under configuration. Wish I had all of these memorized off the top of my head already. Let's see, no. I'm wondering why my modules aren't coming up here either. Oh, I know. Oh, all right. I don't have all of the modules installed for some reason. That's interesting. Get module, graph. All right, I've got it here. Let's go with this. Thank you, Johan. I'll pull it up in just a second. There it is. Awesome. So Johan did mention here in the chat, Trevor Jones did write about managing PowerShell scripts with Graph a few years back. Nice thing about this is that it's mostly the raw Graph requests here. So this will allow you to download those scripts. Let's see if this, can you get the actual assignment? So basically, here's where you can download the script, Amir, with a couple of commands. You can also just create them this way. And let's see if we've got assignments. Here are the assignments. Now this is using the older Azure AD PowerShell module, which has been starting to be deprecated for ever now, seemingly a year or so. But basically go through and reassign this way. So with a little bit of scripting, absolutely doable. If you do want the GUI method, I would go this route, the Intune management tool. But I will share this this blog post from Trevor as well. Hopefully that helps. With a little bit of scripting, I think that process would be much less painful for your organization. for sure. All right. Jamie's got a question here. Thoughts on forking modern driver management? Comes compiled with an executable. Can see all of the PowerShell with transcribing thoughts on using this, even when the latest source is not posted. You know, yeah. So let's see. We're talking about the modern driver management solution here from Maurice. Basically, so there's two parts to the modern driver management solution, right? We have the PowerShell script here that will actually apply the drivers or BIOS updates as part of a config manager task sequence, for example, or you can just use the script. And then there is the driver automation tool here. There we go. I was going to say, I'm surprised it's not showing up in my history. There's the driver automation tool that is the executable that will actually download the content, create the packages and everything for you. So in terms of forking the PowerShell script, depending on the license, I don't see why not. If you need or want to make changes to it or anything like that. But I'm not sure. Are you referring to the actual the invoke CM apply driver package PowerShell script or the driver automation tool? The source for driver automation tool has been shared. So yeah, if we go in like here, where the heck was that source? You know what? I think, do we share that before, Johan? I'm used to talking to you like you're right here. So let's see if it's in here, maybe. So yeah, so the source here is just for an older version, but it looks like, yeah. So without the source code being released for the latest version, not sure how much we could do there. Let's see, is it this? Yeah, it must be some of this because we got the driver automation tool PowerShell script. I think that would be it here. Here's some of the content. Guessing this is going to be some of our source. Yep. So, sorry, Jamie, I don't think I'm fully answering your question here, but without without the source on the latest version. Oh, you can get the latest from the log, not from GitHub. I see. And you're wanting to fork it potentially? All right. Come back to that one here in a minute. Yeah, I saw on the Intune management tool export that Johan mentioned here that could have swore that included assignments. I thought so too, and typically it does for most objects. I'm wondering if I'm guessing in this case I just didn't have the script assigned, but that's something to keep an eye out for, because even when you click on um, even when you view a platform script, you can see here that the assignments seem to be coming through in the JSON payload. So, Amir, if you go end up going through that project, definitely be interested in hearing how it goes for you. All right. Okay, so Jamie just following up here. Yes, would like to fork with the latest. I would, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I would follow up with Morris on that, um, based on the licensing for the driver automation tool and everything. I don't really want to say yes or no uh, uh, either way, and speak for him as the maintainer of the solution. So I would drop him a line for sure. All right. So a follow-up question here from Matthew, doing my second, maybe first time software sync, WSUS synchronizing updates 6% with about 7 hours to go. Is it working correctly? So sounds like it, Matthew, as long as that's moving along. Have definitely seen initial syncs of WSUS take a very long time. Assuming this is still talking about the hydration kit. So as long as you continue to see that go up, excuse me, um, as long as you continue to see those items processed go up rather, and the ETA come down, I would say yes, that looks like it's working correct. And sync processes after this are going to be much shorter than hours. All right. Nathan's got a question here. Going through a merger and looking to manage the other organization's devices. There's no Forest Trust, and the devices are hybrid joined to their um, Azure AD tenant. Can they still be managed through our CMG? Interesting. I know a couple of people that I could ask that normally deal with mergers and cross forest and cross tenant solutions. My initial thought would be yes, because we can install the ConfigMgr client, point it directly to the CMG, but it might depend on the type of trust that you have for the CMG. So for a lot of uh, organizations that the ones that I'm typically working with are very simple. Single forest, single domain, identity synced, and that trust happens through Entra. But you can do certificate trust with CMG, so that might be something to look into. If anybody else here is in that sort of scenario where you're doing CMG management with a different tenant. My gut tells me, though, Nathan, that you might need to look at certificate trust in that case, um, but pure speculation on my end. Sorry to say, I have not been fortunate enough to work in one of those situations. So cross tenant. CMG management. All right. Jamie's asking, have you looked into the best PowerShell AI tools for reviewing large files to help review large projects at once rather than small sections? The only thing that I've played around with recently, and I can't say that the files I've used have been too large, um, is GitHub Copilot. It's worked well for some simple scripts um, to help me with some analysis there. It's helped speed up a few things for me, for sure, and write a little bit better code in some cases. I've also had it write not the code that I was looking for, as I'm sure many of you have had both experiences with AI if you've used them for coding. But that's really all I've looked into recently. Um, I know. Let's see if I can find this here. So, Doug Fink, originally of the um, uh, PowerShell Excel import Excel module fame, very very popular PowerShell module that's been around for a while that allows you to manipulate Excel spreadsheets. I haven't dove into too much, but I've been paying attention to. He's been doing a lot of AI stuff. Been writing a lot of AI PowerShell modules, as well as putting out quite a bit of content around AI and PowerShell specifically. So might give Doug a look to see if any of the code that he's put out might help with what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, really, the only thing that I've had experience recently again is GitHub Copilot. Little bit of ChatGPT for PowerShell scripts, but I've kind of been bouncing back and forth between the two. And recently, just as part of my workflow, GitHub Copilot has been working well. So I don't think I've seen him on here, but Jim, if you happen to be here or watch this later, thank you. I still have my GitHub Copilot subscription thanks to your recommendation. But yeah, Doug's a great follow. Fantastic stuff. Okay. Yeah, I see a follow up from Nathan here. I've been trying with the bulk token and importing CMG's root certs. Works fine from a domain with no Azure and PKI, but so far not across tenants and existing PKI. Interesting. So I'm going to make a note of that, Nathan. Reach out to a friend of mine, see if they've got any simple documentation or sorry, I shouldn't say simple, but any documentation that they have off the top of their head. Like I said, I know a couple of people that are often going through mergers, though I think most of the time they're probably not dealing with ConfigMgr or the CMG in that case. But I will reach out and see if they have any recommendations. And if so, I will be happy to share them next week. If not, would appreciate if anybody has been in that situation and has anything that they'd like to share in the chat. It would be fantastic. All right. Well, we still got a whole 7 minutes left. Yeah, the last 20 minutes flew by. Funny how that works. Let me just check, make sure that I haven't missed any questions. Oh, I did miss this from Johan. So he talked about this a little bit, definitely during our MDT session a couple of weeks ago. But he may have also brought this up on office hours. There was a new solution, well, not new, but OSD Wizard. There was a newer version that came out that's sort of a UDI replacement for MDT as we start to go away from MDT. And it includes workgroup join support when using UDI XML integration. And I wanted to make sure that I grabbed that link because I know that solution has had quite a few updates over the last couple of weeks here. Let's see if I can find that link real quick. Here it is. So basically, this is just a PowerShell replacement for UDI. So really nice stuff if this is something that you require. Thank you, Johan. If you're still on here with us, I'm betting you're not, but I could be wrong. I will make sure to share this link today as well. All right. Well, not seeing any other questions. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Sometimes it's not. I would say personally, it's not quite as fun without Johan here, but we'll be happy to have him back next week. I appreciate you all joining. For those of you that stuck around, thanks for doing that. Appreciate the comments and questions here in the chat. I've got a couple of notes to hopefully try to follow up on next week, and we should be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week on the 12th. So thank you all again. Let me pop over to this. Thank you all again for joining, and we will see you next week.